Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today. My name is Jesse Moen, and I head up continuous improvement practice here at SGK. The CI practice, as we're known, partners with CPGs, retailers, and life sciences organizations to improve how they bring their brand materials to market. So a little bit about our conversation today. We're all seeing or experiencing firsthand the growth in merger and acquisition activities, and it seems like the pace is picking up. This significantly impacts all involved. As good and bad, as good brand stewards, we need to be prepared to manage our organizations and brands through these transitions in a manner that delivers both top-line growth and the expected synergies, so to speak, that come with M&A activity. Unfortunately, too many CPGs and retailers tend to mishandle the opportunity, and either they're doing one of two things. They're either crushing the brand they're purchasing by too aggressively consolidating and seeking efficiencies, or on the opposite side, they're shying away from significant opportunities for cost savings, as an example, because of fear or misinformation. So today we're going to talk a little bit about an approach that's really neither of these extremes, but just right, based on your organization. So objectives for our conversation today, we're going to do four things. We're going to review M&A purchasing strategies used by CPGs and retailers. We're going to identify the three obstacles to pursuing opportunities within the brand and material supply chain. We're going to show how to assess your supply chain based on the M&A strategy that your organization is using, and introduce a framework to uncover and deliver value. So let's start by talking briefly about purchasing strategies. There are many purchasing strategies that retailers and CPGs employ in mergers and acquisitions, such as a desire to enter into a growing category or a new geography, or they're trying to grow scale within existing categories and or geographies. They might be looking for distressed or mismanaged organizations as an opportunity, or they could be just acquiring a very small but promising brand or product to leverage an already built amazing distribution or supply chain that they have already in place. So when evaluating these purchasing strategies through a brand lens, it really just ladders up to two very simple categories, and that would be what we call new markets and existing markets. When purchasing a brand that falls into this sort of new markets category, this enables an organization to enter into, again, this new category or geography. For example, you might sell frozen meals in house, you also sell pet food, or you have a footprint in Europe and you want to enter into the Brazilian market. So these are clearly new markets. So most often buying a brand in this way is just cheaper, it's better, and it's much faster than building it yourself. The CapEx has already been spent on all the modes and means of production, and then the brand's been built. Purchasing a brand that falls into the existing markets category is often a scale leveraging opportunity. It builds on capabilities that you're already excelling. We know it, we do it. It's an opportunity to capture new and significant market share in categories and geographies that you're already well established and well versed in. And so just understanding these two simple categories in the acquisition strategy within your organization, it matters greatly, as it has a significant effect on where you look for opportunities within the supply chain. And that's because with all strategies, the value of the brand must be preserved and nurtured. So the hunt for savings. Consolidation activity moves quickly with the usual suspects, often at the plant level or through centralized corporate functions such as finance, sales, HR, IT, and even through consolidating common, very large external suppliers. Because of the rapid pace of industry consolidation that we're seeing right now and increased competition, companies are on the lookout for new avenues for decreasing costs, streamlining operations, and ultimately driving the shareholder value. So the brand and material supply chain is often an afterthought when hunting for these productivity savings and growth opportunities. However, the opportunities within the supply chain should be an important part of your consolidation strategy. So what is a brand and material supply chain other than a mouthful? Brand and material supply chains are all the strategies, inputs, process steps, participants, suppliers, etc., required to create all the marcoms, the packaging, advertising, shopper marketing, coupon, digital, etc. that exist for your brands. And when looking at the supply chain, I have a very simple overview of what this looks like here. We can break it down into two distinct phases, one being brand development, which is the part of your supply chain that's driving growth. It's comprised of all those strategic brand building activities, such as consumer insights, shopper, trade strategies, innovation practices, and strategic and lead creative. Final outputs of this phase include a fully formed visual system to execute against in the deployment phase. Brand deployment activities include design adaptation and extensions, photography, post-production, pre-media, and then on the fulfillment side, printing, publishing, posting, delivery, display, all those parts and pieces that give your brand material and finally produced and in place. So organizations can find cost savings, top-line growth, and improve supply chain performance if they have the expertise to assess for some of these differentiated opportunities that exist in either of these phases. And brand owners and procurement, really, you guys have the expertise and must lead the charge in this space. But as I said, the supply chain is often an afterthought when we're looking for consolidation opportunities. And it's an expensive afterthought. There are three obstacles and perceptions that we tend to see. Number one, the scale is too small to make a difference. Number two, don't mess with the brand. It's just way too risky. Oftentimes, the brand portfolio is a reason you purchase an organization in the first place. And number three, the spend model is just too complex to tackle. It's usually made up of a combination of retainer models, per unit commercial models, multi-year contracts, on-site contractors, and internal full-timers. And this can be really daunting to get your arms around. The facts, however, say otherwise. There are 7 to 8 figure savings opportunities for Fortune 500 companies, and I'd say equally impressive opportunities, at least from a percentage point of view, for smaller organizations. The scale is there, however, it's often obscured by complex organizational designs and really diverse budgets. Mitigate risk by evaluating and analyzing before you act. You can nurture and grow the brand and deliver efficiencies at the same time. We're talking today about this, you can have it all. And getting there requires some thoughtful evaluation and analysis in both upstream in the supply chain and that insights, innovation, and lead creative space, and downstream in the supply chain in those activation and fulfillment activities. And finally, overcome complexity by collaborating with experts across the entire supply chain. You can't do this in a vacuum. You're going to need leadership and boots on the ground in the brand design, marcom space, with marketing, sales, procurement, legal, HR, and really rely on your suppliers as well. They will bring a lot of good ideas to the table. So perception is everything. Well, let's remove these obstacles and move forward. So where do we start? First, we want to focus on creating a strategy for consolidation that does two things. Number one, it protects and nurtures all the fantastic reasons that you bought a brand in the first place. And then number two, we want to appropriately exploit the newfound scale that your organization has now, which is really one of the key purposes for the acquisition in the first place. And after agreeing on the strategy, make an effort to conduct some discovery work using your leadership lens. It will be political and it will be highly charged, and as such, change management is critically important. So in order to overcome that, collaborate early and often to build a web of sponsors across your organization. So your discovery work should focus on assessment of the present strategies, processes, roles, and vendors within that development and deployment within those phases of your supply chain. So for brands that are in these new markets, again, these are our purchases that are in completely new categories or geographies. We really want to nurture the top line, exploit our newfound scale, but we want to protect the magic that has built the brand in the first place. So as such, we want to err towards leaving the development activities somewhat alone and more aggressively consolidating against deployment opportunities. And we want to do this to avoid crushing that magic, so to speak, that has built the brand in the first place. This magic can be crushed as consolidation efforts focus very, very sharply on reaping benefits of scale really reach too far and snuff out your brand, leaving it sometimes hollow and irrelevant. For example, if you're a food organization, you might be purchasing an organic or natural brand that has headquarters in some exotic place like Malibu, and there might be an effort afoot to move all the marketing and brand development activities to your central office, which might be in, I don't know, Des Moines or Omaha. Doing this, you're probably not going to get a lot of your marketing talent and strategic brand development talent to move with that business, and ultimately your brand's going to suffer. It's somewhat of an extreme, but if you've been in the industry long enough, you start to see these things, and they just don't tend to end well. So it's really critical for these new market purchases. It's really critical to honor this brand development IP. Look for opportunities to commoditize elsewhere downstream in that deployment chain, where steps, whether you're selling pet food or frozen meals, the steps are very similar. Really, in structuring this evaluation, this discovery work, we want to think across 4 areas. Brand and material supply chains can be simplified when thought of through these four categories. So these workflows that are bringing your materials to market, the staff that's in place that manages and interacts with these materials, and these may be internal staff. They might be external contractors that are on site. Look at all the parts and pieces within all the different parts of the organization. You want to look obviously closely at your agency and production partners who are either creating or producing your branded materials, and then also your technology suite that supports and governs these supply chains. So let's talk tactics now. We have four slides here to talk through tactics, and slide 1 here is probably the most important. And these are questions to assess things that are related more towards workflow. So we have, what strategic brand and marketing mix decisions could be made to simplify your supply chains? Have you clearly defined handoffs between lead creative and adaptive design across all of your branded materials? How long is it taking to create and improve branded materials, and what kind of opportunities exist to rationalize structures and ink sets for your printed materials? And we pick these 4 questions because they have the biggest impact, far-reaching impacts on cost savings, time savings, and organizational throughput. When looking at your strategic brand and marketing mix, we're looking to make some choices around focusing resources on, say, flagship and growth brands, doing things like rationalizing your brand portfolio or optimizing your SKU assortment even within a brand. This is all meant to simplify and take waste, time, cost, etc. out of your supply chain, and ultimately it will focus the organization more on the winners in your portfolio, your new and expanded portfolio. Also, in defining handoffs from adaptive to production as well, or I'm sorry, from creative to adaptive within that production stream. Very critical as well. Most organizations that we speak to think that they have a process like that in place and a definition in place. What's most difficult about that is being rigorous in adhering to that. But a very massive cost-saving opportunity and time savings opportunity in that space as well. And then as far as workflow goes on the deployment side, if it's taking a long time to get your materials approved and out the door, it might be because there are a lot of revisions and setbacks built into your process. So we like to focus very closely on inputs, just like we would any manufacturing process. I don't want to move forward until I have an approved design. I have a die line, for example, if it's a piece of packaging artwork. Whatever the inputs are for that specific piece of branded material, get those in place before you start deploying and building production files. Looking at tactics to assess staffing model, these tactics or questions work across both development and deployment. Are your marketers burdened with administrative tasks and project management duties related to branded material production? How might you physically centralize your marketing communications and marketing staff? There's a lot of different ways to go about doing this. Sometimes it makes sense to physically centralize them in one place, sometimes decentralized work. We've seen a couple. Honestly, it's going to depend on your specific situation. And also, what tasks are currently being performed that we could stop doing, automate, or outsource? So we're looking for opportunities to centralize specific duties and tasks that might be spread across your organization and better served elsewhere, eliminating redundancies, eliminating non-value add, potentially outsourcing some non-core competencies, and really getting the organization to focus on value-driving activities and centralizing and potentially outsourcing a lot of those project management, supply chain expertise, duties and tasks that are required. When looking at agency and production partners, a couple questions come to mind. Number one, do you have a strategy in place to align design projects with creative oversight requirements? And if so, is that being followed? Again, back to that handoff between development and deployment. Where is that handoff? We've seen very significant savings come about by being sure we have that well defined and then applying a rigor to make sure that it actually takes place. What are the core competencies of our agency partners? What capabilities do our production partners possess? Make sure that we have a very clear picture of that, because ultimately we want to consolidate artwork production, print, and fulfillment vendors to take advantage of the new scale that your organization has. So really do your research here to truly understand the capability set of your production and fulfillment vendors, along with their physical footprint as well. And then finally, do we have a vendor collaboration program? And this is, I think, a huge opportunity for the CPG and retail space that they're not taking advantage of right now. This is a great way to uncover ongoing savings. There's a ton of untapped potential here. Toyota, 3M, they've built entire supply chains on vendor collaboration, where they'll align very closely on what exactly is needed through the process, what are some opportunities for improvement. It's not just an exercise in here's what I do, here's what the price is. It's aligning activities and deliverables and making sure that they're creating value and then building efficiency into that. Finally, we have some questions to assess your technology and toolkit. Key questions here are what technologies and tools do we have in place to manage workflows, online approvals, digital social publishing, and asset management here. And then what are our best opportunities for automation? We're trying to consolidate, again, across technology platforms to do things like online approval management, workflow management, having just one asset library, remote proofing potential as well. But again, just looking for the best and brightest and consolidating and standardizing on one set there. Okay, so that brings us to a wrap up here. Again, today hopefully we've all walked through this together. We've done a few things. We reviewed M&A purchasing strategies used by CPGs and retailers. We've identified 3 obstacles to pursuing opportunities within the branded material supply chain. We've showed how to assess your supply chain based on the merger and acquisition strategy used. And then we've introduced a framework as well to uncover and deliver shareholder value. So with that, I just want to say that, hopefully if you've had some questions, you've been submitting them to our moderator. I failed to mention that at the get-go, but thank you so much for listening today. I hope that there were a few nuggets in the discussion that you can take away and use in your specific situation or potentially a future one. There'll likely be one in your future. I've already lived through a few myself. And feel free to reach out to me with other questions. My team and I have a wide breadth of industry expertise across CPGs, manufacturing, life sciences, technology, et cetera, and we'd really love to talk to you. So with that, I'll open up the floor to questions. We have our first question coming in. How to best get people to buy in to some of the changes that you might want to propose? How best to get people to buy into some of the changes you might want to propose? Well, it's really an exercise in change management. So in that sense, there are a couple of critical steps that I think are best practices when building a change platform. Number one, you have to create that urgency for the change. The way to do that is to start building a sort of a framework and an analysis plan and a clearly defined expectation of what results might be and take that story, build that story so it's simple and easy to understand, and build some consensus with cross-functional leadership within the organization. From here, again, this idea of collaborating across all the different disciplines within your organization, this gives everyone a voice, and that is a huge way to get around obstacles for change. And finally, this discovery phase that we're suggesting as well, it really gives the opportunity for those voices to be heard and to craft what some of those changes might need to get. That would be the plan that I would advocate for. Okay, we have another question here. These choices are made without me. How can I insert my point of view or participate? Well, without, I guess, knowing your role, but in general, a couple of things come to mind. Number one, assuming you're in the marketing communications or brand design space, I would be assertive. Number one, be assertive and open to change, I guess would be my 2 points. Number one, you're the experts in this space, but also you have to have a very open mind to new ways of working, which is sometimes very hard to do if we've been in a position for a long time or at the same organization for a long time. So actively seek out opportunities to take part in the planning process is a good way to do that. Advocate for yourself there. Come to these meetings with kind of a straw man, I think, a framework, and anticipate the benefits that the team can start working around and thinking around, and really building that story and platform as proactively as possible. Thank you for that question. Are there any other questions? I have one more question here. At what point in the M&A process should I start this kind of work, which I would assume to mean some of the analysis work? Well, I guess there's no time like the present. You could do it right now, even before there is any M&A activity. But I guess other than that, I would start as soon as the announcement is made. The longer the wait, the less of an impact you might be able to have for the positive. Not to say it's hopeless if it's past that point already, but try to join in the initiative as quickly as you can. Understand what the synergy targets are, and how you might be able to consolidate some things across both organizations and sets of brands to be able to uncover some of those benefits. Any other questions? Okay, I think that's it for questions then. And with that, just want to thank everyone again for joining, and looking forward to hopefully talking with some of you in the future. Have a great day.